Welcome to No One Told Me This, the podcast where we unpack what it really means to be a woman in leadership. The ambition, the identity crises, the cultural tensions, the glass ceilings, and those that we build ourselves. My name is Jess. I'm your host, a certified leadership coach, and your honest big sister in the boardroom. This is not the stuff you'll find in the handbooks. This is the stuff that no one told us that we're saying out loud. So let's get into it. Today, I am joined by an amazing woman who is making absolute waves in the UAE property world. She is a chief commercial officer at a leading developer. And I'm really excited about today's conversation because we will get to learn from all of her wisdom, from her passion, and also from her absolute desire to improve service standards across the field. Welcome, Cecilia Reinaldo.
Oh, thank you. That was a very kind introduction.
It is really, really great to have you. So thank you for being here, first of all. How are you feeling today?
Great. And I love opportunities to empower women and talk about, journeys. And, I feel like, especially in the region, there's a lot of women that are looking for a space in the workplace. And sometimes they are not feeling they're enough, or they're not feeling that they can do it. So whatever we can do to give them a push, that would be lovely.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm really excited to speak to you, because I've been following some of your work, and one thing that really stood out to me is you have this sense of authenticity and passion for just improving the standards, just making things better, making sure that agents add value as well to their clients. And what does value even mean? What are your clients looking for? The 360, the whole journey of the client from beginning to end. And I think it's really, really needed in this market. But real estate is predominantly a male-dominated field.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So it will be interesting today to get into how you found that journey. But I think a good place to start is just you telling us who you are, because this conversation is not just an interview, but it's a conversation of becoming, how you became who you are today. And so it would be great for you to let us know who you are beyond the LinkedIn bio and the job title. Who is Cecilia Reinaldo?
I think when it comes to defining you, I think jobs are momentaneous. We move with our life path. I think is where I am in my life today is at, I suppose, the happiest moment. You achieve that moment where whatever you do because you like, not because you have to. And I think this is really the arbitrage in life is, being happy, waking up in the morning, being happy. And I do feel for the people that sometimes they are doing a certain type of work that they don't have a choice and they don't necessarily like. So I think for me, when I look at my life, I think right now I'm very happy, and the happiness really, drives better performance, better conversations, and you're able to provide other people also a little bit more empathy about things rather than always worry about yourself and where you are. So I've been in the industry now for 20 years. Did not plan to.
You don't look like it's been 20 years.
No, it's been 20 years, and I came by default. I moved to the UAE in 2001. I was working for an FMCG company. My field was, I wanted to be a diplomat, and, completely different story. But there was an opportunity. I met at that point was my partner, and who became my partner, and he was setting up a real estate agency. I said, well, that looks interesting. I got involved in the business development, and from there I was never looked back.
Well, that experience of building something from scratch as well is going to give you all the experience that you need to survive in a market like this.
Absolutely. And that's the point. Actually, probably most of my life was working for myself. And it was not just through COVID that I shifted that into a corporate job. But I think when you work for yourself, you develop certain skills in terms of getting out of your comfort zone. You have to have grit. You are bound by the effort you make. You don't have the confidence, the situation where there's a salary in the end of the month. And I think that changed the way you look at life. So by default, you develop a skill base that I think is a bit different when you are in the corporate environment through your whole life.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like if you have run your own business in any way, shape or form, you just look at things a lot differently. And I think you value clients differently because you don't look at it one transaction. You look at it, how many transactions could I do with this person over the course of our relationship? And that's a completely different number.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a really, really good lesson. And also, I love the fact that you said that you're happy. Because like, I think everyone's looking for this, right? Everyone's just trying to be happy, trying to do a career that they think they'll be good at, that hopefully they like. And you're right, a majority of people are doing careers that they don't enjoy, but maybe they feel stuck and like it's too risky to maybe try what they actually love. Maybe it won't be able to fund their life the way that they need to.
Yep.
So yeah, what a blessing it is to be able to, you know, get paid for what you actually love doing.
I think it's starting with a big realization, because I think everyone, if you look back 10 years ago, you would want to be somewhere. And I'll promise you that you'll probably achieve what you thought it was something that you wanted.
Yeah.
But the problem is the goalpost keeps moving. And because it keeps moving, you know, when does it end? When do you get to the point? So you have to realize that you are where you said you wanted to be in your majority of life. This is not a rule, but I think when I start to realize that I've achieved so much more than I ever imagined, you start to become more grateful. You start to understand that, you know, there are other important aspects of your life. Time passes, especially when you start to have children. So if you don't take a moment to realize that, I think it becomes a chase of nothingness, really, because most of the time we're chasing is wealth or, you know, career, names, you know, and what is that for if you're not happy?
Yeah, absolutely. And the quest of happiness continues, lifelong journey. Okay, so since you're in a place where you're truly happy, if your younger self could see you now, what do you think would surprise her the most?
It's a difficult one. I think when you're young, obviously you have aspirations, and a lot of those aspirations are based on your family, right? A lot of time you get a lot of input from your family what you should be. And probably most of us, we buy into that because we want to show our parents that we're making them happy, right? So you get into that cycle. And I think it was very early on, thankfully, I decided to change my career path because, again, my family thought, oh, you could work on politics and be a diplomat. And it was such a perceived, well-deserved career. But throughout, I realized, oh, that doesn't, you know, it's too calm. I'm a very, very excited person. I need some spice in my life. So I changed into trading. And, you know, I think in hindsight, it was funny because I used to go to university. Next to this university, there was this corporate office of a big PLC. And I should look at the office and think to myself, my younger self, wow, imagine if you get a job there. You know, that was almost like get a job. Imagine if you're able to be part of a C-suite of an organization. It almost felt like something possible to achieve. But again, very influenced to the achievement of your parents because you don't want to disappoint them, right? And life took me completely in a different direction, completely out of a potential corporate world. And it got me into having to wake up in the morning with 0 on the board every day. and that really change your perspective. So I think we need to be a little bit more kind to ourselves with our ambitions and be a little bit more patient because we have time. We put all, I think, especially for women, we put a lot of this clock time thing that if you don't do this by this time, you fail. If you don't have children by this time, you fail. I feel I'm just starting now. You know?
I love that.
So I again, it took time to get to this point, and I think people don't realize the older you get, you know, obviously you wiser you get and the more comfortable you become with your decisions. And I think, again, we have a lot of pressure when we're young to achieve, especially women, because the workplace is not for you, and you've been told that, you know, there will be always someone that's going to be better than you, and there's so much pressure from society in different directions that are not necessarily there to help you succeed. So you really need to develop quite a strong self-awareness to allow you to put the noise out and slowly but surely, you know, start to develop your path.
Yeah, you've said so much that really resonates with me because I feel like a lot of what we go through as women and, like you said, as we get older is really trusting ourselves.
Yeah.
like the feelings that we have, and when we feel something isn't quite right, or when we feel that, you know, it's time to make a change, or maybe this isn't what's good for my life, we start to listen to ourselves more than the voices that we had, like the family and the friends or society. We start to be a bit more confident in our own opinions and in our own, I guess, convictions. And I think that is a beautiful thing, because I think once we start to, you know, really back ourselves with the things that we want to do, we achieve things that we just, you know, at one point in our lives didn't think was possible. And now we're actually doing it simply because we actually listened to our own selves and the voice that we had. So I absolutely agree with that. I want to talk about your journey, and because you have kind of completely changed paths and you've kind of worked building businesses from scratch, and then for some really high, or should I say well-known brands. Were there any particular moments that you felt really shaped the way that you lead, that really made you think, you know, this is the kind of leader that I want to be, and this is why? Was there any sort of instance where something happened and it changed the way that you lead?
I think in general, when I look, because, you know, in between everything, and there was a period of consulting that I've done for different companies, different developers in the UAE, and having spent time within the organization, you start to look at different points of view. And I think leadership starts, you know, I think people measure leadership by your title on the org structure, right? But I think leadership starts how you work with your peers. You know, I think when I think we all have a responsibility to be better, right? We all have a responsibility to try as, you know, harder. But I feel sometimes people are defining leadership looking above, but I think it starts within, and how you lead by example with your own teams, with your colleagues. How do you listen? How do you help when they need your assistance? But I think this is what leadership is to me. I think the challenge as well is that sometimes you might have a boss that you don't respect because you might feel you know more than them. They were put in that position unnecessarily because you know they deserve it. There's so many situations that happen on a day-to-day, right? That sometimes you're stuck because you want to look up, but you don't necessarily get the support that you need. So what do you do? I think when you start to achieve certain steps out in the org structure, you do have a responsibility with your peers, right? Because especially as a woman, there's other women who like to do what you're doing, or they aspire. Even sometimes it's just, you know, not a fantasy rather than something. They're not necessarily going to make them happy, but they aspire to lead themselves. So I think the responsibility that comes with the titles and the job is great, because you achieve something that a lot of people would like to achieve, and providing them a pathway or listen to what would they like to do in their life is so important. Yeah.
I'm interested to know, like, as you've climbed the ladder, should I say, might be your own ladder or it might be the corporate ladder, but as you've climbed the ladder, have you ever experienced like imposter syndrome where you feel like, I've bitten off more than I can chew. Maybe this role is too big for me. Maybe I'm not supposed to be here. Maybe I'm not worthy. Especially, like I said, in your field where there are a lot of men. I assume that there wouldn't be more women than men doing the things that you do, right? So have you ever felt like slight imposter syndrome? And then what did you do about that? How did you move through it?
I think I have a unique story when it comes to that, because I do know that a lot of women, they not succeed because they're not given the chance. I was always given a chance, and I think through meritocracy, that worked for me. Okay. So I think I was never judged by, you know, gender. I was judged by the results. So I'm very fortunate that every opportunity that I got, I was able to show up. I have failed many of them, and therefore I didn't get it. But I did not blame the other party. I blame myself. And there was opportunities where I got it, and I also blame myself. So I think, you know, that is very important, that whatever it goes, even if it is true and it is the other party, or, you know, there was something that was unfair, accountability. It makes our life so much easier when you start to blame yourself for everything because you stop to, you know, is the weather, is my boss, is Joanna. You always have a choice, right? Yeah. You always have a choice to exit a situation that is not for you, but people don't. They sit on the situation and just blame the environment rather than, if it's not working for you, get your bag and go find something that it works for you, you know? It's not as simple as that, but I think for me, that's how I, let's say, organize my thoughts, because when I'm in a position or a situation that is not working, if I'm not able to, you know, through time, through communication, through discussions, to find a common ground, then I'm the first one to move away, because, again, why put effort and energy on something that doesn't make you happy?
Yeah. Sometimes I think some women feel imposter syndrome, even though they're completely qualified and completely like worthy to be there. But sometimes also I think we have, well, I'll maybe say for myself, sometimes it's I'm the first person doing something in my family, you know, and so it's like I don't really have someone to look at and say,
Sure.
oh, this is an example and, you know, this is what they did. I can do it. It's more I have to just believe in myself enough to push through all those nerves and to push through all the doubts and things like that. And sometimes imposter syndrome can just make people feel that even though they've got something that they know that they can do, there's this sense of, oh my God, other people are going to think that I shouldn't be here, or I don't deserve this role, or I don't deserve this opportunity. And it can really weigh on us. I think as women, we're a lot more susceptible to what we think other people think of us, because we do everything in life based on how we think other people think of us, whether it's how we dress or where we go or what we do. We're like, we don't want to be seen to be like this or seen to be like that. So yeah, imposter syndrome is quite an important, I guess, theme, because I think we deal with it, you know, all the time in different ways, you know.
I think typically other people see the best of us before we see the best of us.
That's true, actually.
So I'm sure you've been through a lot of situations where somebody gave you a compliment or they were happy with something you deliver, and you're like, really? You know, it's almost like you're not even deserved this. So it goes back to the self-awareness part, you know. And if it takes time for you to realize your worth, that's fine. But in principle, I think the sign to see if you are in the right place and you're doing the right thing is other people around you, because I'm sure that you have a system around you that is indicating positively or negatively whether you are in a good space.
Yeah.
So I think it's, again, we have so much pressure to deliver, and I think we have so much pressure to be perfect, to look the best, to be successful, you know, and you just can't wear all the hats all the time, you know. We can barely wake up in the morning.
Remember to drink water. That's probably the hardest
they
thing
didn't
for
drink water on top of all of that. How is that possible? It's impossible. But I think it comes down to, you know, be grateful where you are, you know, try your best, because if you do what you're supposed to be doing, other people will notice, right? And they will help you somehow, and they will, you know, and if that's not working again, that's time for redirection. And I think that's the difficulty, right? Is to get out of what you know.
Yeah.
And suddenly throw the cards up to something you don't know. And I have this conversation with a lot of people all the time, like, what are you afraid of? What's the worst going to happen? Okay, you'll get a salad for a couple of months, but are you exchanging that and the possibility of something greater than to be miserable?
You know, it's a really deep thing, because I find it so easy to talk about this to other people. And then when it's myself, I overthink, you know. So when it comes to the unknown, like what you're saying, throw all the cards up in the air and just try something new. I talk about it all the time, and I am actually very open to risk. But then it takes me a long time to actually make the decision to jump.
To jump, yeah.
Because I've thought about every eventuality. What could happen if I jump like this, or I jump like that, or, you know, I roll myself in this. And then I noticed that I overthink. But when I talk to friends, I'm like, just do it. Don't think about it. Just do it. It's going to be great. And I almost wish we had this same support for ourselves that we so easily give to other people when other people need our advice, you know.
I think we work on the premise that we're in control, right? Which we're not. That's actually a very uncomfortable, I would say, little trend right now on Instagram. I don't know if you notice, but it's a video that basically shows a moment in someone's life. And the video always says, in half an hour, this person, something really bad is going to happen. Or in half an hour. And actually, I get anxiety when I look at that video, because I'm like, everything seems so perfect in the moment. Yeah. And then 10 minutes later, something really bad happens. And you've been diagnosed with I don't know what. So what are we trying to control, right? Yeah. It's easier said than done. I accept that. But I think from all the things we have to do, if I would give someone advice, it's just try to work on your self-awareness, who you are,
Yeah.
what you want to be, what are your values, because most of the time we are trading all the things that belongs to us to something that is not positive.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in self-awareness. I
Yeah.
think it's majority of what I talk about, what I train on, and obviously as a leadership coach, what I talk about a lot is you have to know yourself in order to lead yourself. And I feel like as leaders, sometimes we can just behave a certain way, we are a certain way, we don't realize the impact that has on people around us. And sometimes we can be in a mindset where we think everyone should just adapt to how we are. If this is how I am, this is the way I deal with things, just deal with it, But that's not how we grow. That's not how we become better people. That's not how we bring real change in the world. And it all starts with us, being self-aware, understanding how we are at our best, how we are when we're not at our best, when we're under stress, when we feel triggered, how do we behave, and all the impact that has. So yeah, absolutely. I agree. I wonder if we can talk about your values. So where you are now in your leadership journey, what values do you feel that you fight to protect that are really important to you as a woman, but also as a leader?
I always want to be surrounded with people who knows more than I do. This is for me the most important. And I cannot wait for someone to take my chair.
Nice. I like that.
Because it means it's time for me to grow and to move on and to, learn something else. I think I was thinking about this actually driving last week, when we get into recruitment. I was asking, do people really, when they're choosing someone to be their right hand, left hand, are they choosing someone because they want the person to be maybe 50% of who they are, so they are still in control of their relationship, or they actually want someone who knows more than them? But I think the first point is the truth.
Most of the time.
Because, again, people are scared to lose their jobs. They're scared about losing their position. But again, maybe because my DNA is a little bit different. I come from, nothing, building things from nothing. I'm more comfortable with the change. But I think when you incorporate your whole life, I think that is a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. What's one thing that no one told you about success, power, or leadership as a woman? What's one thing no one told you?
I think no one told. Going back to the point you just raised earlier about the control aspect of things. When I look at all the good things that happen in my life and all the bad things, none of them I could have ever thought it was going to happen the way it did, right? So I think building relationships with people, I think that was the arbitrage to growth. Because when you build genuine relationship with people, that guy that you sold the house, he could be your boss in 7 years.
Very true.
And, that person you do a leasing is going to become, somebody that's going to refer you to someone else. So from everything that I talk about and all the content, I always reinforce the impact you make, how you make people feel, how they're gonna remember you, how they're gonna talk about you when you're not in the room. I think this is it. If there was something that I would like people to focus on, is that, because your network is your net worth, right?
Absolutely. I want to talk about burnout, because I feel like as women, we very easily find ourselves in a place where we're burnt out, where we're giving so much of ourselves to so many different people in our lives. And we wear different hats, like you said earlier. If, you have family, you're either a daughter or a sister or an auntie or a mother, or just so many roles. Then you have friends that you kind of have to keep up with as well. Then you have work, and so many different people at work need you. So many different people at work need you, and they need your assistance and your support or your advice. Have you ever found yourself leading from a place of burnout? And if so, what did you do, or what have you started to do to maybe combat that?
I don't like that sentence, life-work balance. In my view, it doesn't exist. You are going to spend 70, 80% of your time in a work environment, whether it's your own business, right? So if you don't love it, you're going to get burnout. So I think it's the change where you're able to appreciate what you do. Then I think it's just the choices that you're making. You are making the choice to work 80% of your time. And then you get into that guilt process as well with children, right? Like you're out the whole day, you're missing them growing up, you know, do they feel bad? But if you were staying at home, would you feel you'd be a better mom? I wouldn't. You know, I'd rather have a smaller quality time. That's me, where I'm 100% with them, where I feel fulfilled, than not being in the work environment and being out with them. I know many people, they are absolutely opposite. They cannot stand the idea of, you know, all the tasks every day, and they love the nurturing aspect of being a mom. Whatever suits you. You know, there's no rule of right or wrong.
Yeah.
But I think to avoid the burnout, you need to put yourself in a position that wherever you're going to spend the most amount of your time is focus on something that you enjoy, because otherwise it doesn't work.
I'm thinking about a couple of things when you say that. I'm thinking about, what if I'm a woman and I'm listening to this and I don't enjoy what I do, but I've been doing it for so long now. I've kind of made progress, like I'm quite high up, let's say. And it's like, do I throw all of that away and then like start all over again? And can I still do that? Do I still have time? Would it work? What if it didn't work?
You have so much time. I mean, there are so many examples of people that start succeeding at 65, 70. And especially now, longevity and wellness is a key aspect of what has been introduced in society. We have so much information to how to live longer, how to get yourself in better shape. So I think time is a myth. You know, you do have a biological clock, and you do have, you know, but I've seen women now having children with 50 years old. Whether it's right or wrong, not here to judge, but you can buy time. But I think, you know, no, I think we don't realize how rare it should be alive, right? It's so rare for us to even be here at this moment having this conversation, that when you put that in perspective, for me, every single second, it needs to be doing something you enjoy, because you don't want to look, you know, you go to, and I've seen many interviews of people nursing homes, right? And you look at people, what's your biggest regrets? You know, not doing things that I love, not trying more, not be more daring, you know. You don't want to live in regret. I'd rather live with failure than living with the regret.
Yeah, that's very true. And also because failure is where you learn every important lesson in your life.
It's the best thing happening in my life. How can you learn if you don't fail? And we need to remove that word as if it's something bad. I'll sit here and talk for 1 hour, all the things I've done wrong, and you're going to laugh. But without those moments, how can you move forward? It's just impossible. And it's okay to fail. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, this is like some of my mantras, because I'm like, you have to allow people to fail forward and all of this. But something else that you touched on that really, again, resonates with me is making the decision, if you're a mother especially, making a decision to whether you're a better mother when you're in the working world or when you're at home staying with your kids or what that might be. And I think there's a fear of judgment around that from other women.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, from other women, and also just from society. I think society isn't necessarily set up in a way where, you know, it's easy to stay home all day, every day and not work, because financially everything is getting way more expensive. But also, I think that there's this internal battle we have in our heads of, am I living up to the societal norm? Is there something wrong with me if I don't feel like I want to stay home all day with my kids? Is there something wrong with me if I do? Because some women also judge people that do. So I think there's a lot that you've said there about just really deciding within yourself what you want, what makes you happy, and then making that decision, because it will have the ongoing impact of just making you a better mother, a better sister, a better colleague, all of those types of things.
It is a sensitive conversation, because what's my concern and what I see a lot is that a lot of women, they prioritize motherhood, which is absolutely fine. But we also need to be accountable on the consequences when you're not in control of your life as well, right? Mm-hmm. Your financial stability, your financial control. how many women I've seen in situations where they don't even have a bank account, right? And it doesn't mean that, your measure of success is, oh, you have to go and, be a vice president of an organization. There's so much you can do from home today, right? There's so many tools that you could do part-time. You could, bake cakes. There's so much you can do and put a little time trying to build a little wealth for yourself, because the reality is sometimes, things don't go the way we think. And then you end up, 20, 30 years later in a situation where you might not have a real income. You might not have, anything to lean on if something happens. And I think, we need to be aware of that. And I think that's where I get worried sometimes with some choices, because not having something that gives you the freedom for a decision to say, you know what, I'm not happy in this particular situation, but I can sustain myself. This is where you potentially put yourself in a situation of negative light.
Yeah, well, we all, I guess, have to make those decisions for ourselves as to what we want our life to look like and what we're willing to do to get there.
Yeah.
Are there any lessons or maybe mindsets that you've had to unlearn in order to fully step into your power?
Unlearn. I love this word, actually, because I unlearn all the time on things. I think empathy is something that is not easy, being in the present moment with other people. Sometimes we're talking to other people, but we're not there. So I think something that I had to unlearn, because I'm very fast-paced and trying to provide you attention where you feel you're getting the attention. I think in general, it's quite hard.
Yeah.
I have a friend, she always tells me, so hard to be your friend, because you're never here with me. But it's true, so this is something definitely I had to unlearn.
How has your cultural background influenced the way that you lead? Do you feel like your culture kind of mixes into the way that you show up?
Yeah, for sure, right? I'm Brazilian at heart. So we are very easygoing type of people. So we're very warm. So I think that culture kind of breaks the barrier. I suppose, people from different cultures, sometimes they're a little bit more reserved, the way they approach, they communicate. So we start with a hug. In fact, I had to, when I came to the year, I had to stop with the hug because people why are you touching me? I'm sorry, that's how we communicate, So I think that we are not judgmental kind of culture. We accept everyone in every way. So, that I think is a barrier that is not there. So makes life easier, to communicate for sure.
Yeah, especially in a UAE where we've got so many different cultures.
So diverse, so beautiful,
It's really, really nice. So what actually brought you to the GCC?
My mom.
Oh, okay.
So my mom, she was she worked for a big oil company. When I was quite young, she moved to the States. And then for family reasons, I stayed back home.
Okay.
So every time I had my holidays, I would visit her wherever she was. So she moved to the UAE in 98.
Okay.
There was nothing. But somehow I fell in love. I came to visit. I thought this was the place I wanted to live. There was only the beach and there was this hotel. I think it's close to the ladies' club. That was pretty much it. And Data City Center was the place to go. Yeah. And the Gold Souk. And that was our weekend affairs. But that's definitely, I came to visit and I fell in love.
It's really nice actually, because when you said your mom, I was like, wow. So I'm from sort of the diaspora, my mum sort of moved to the UK before she had me. So I was born and raised in the UK, but no one's kind of come to this region of the world. So I'm definitely the first in my family to come. And it would have been lovely if, the way you're saying you have family that kind of go and, I don't know, just open your eyes to different things, you know.
And she lived in different countries and I visit those countries as well, but I never felt the urge to move. I always home became my priority, but when I came here, there was a connection I can't explain. Yeah. And that connection, this is where I am and I have no intention to leave.
Yeah, well, I'm with you on that one. What is one leadership challenge that you feel is specific to this region, like leading in this region as a woman? Have you had any experiences that you think this is specific to this part of the world that we're in?
I don't. I'm being very lucky with the gender aspect of things. I never felt in my life, even throughout the process of my career, that being a woman had a positive or negative effect. And even if I did at that time, I probably blame myself on the situation, because I tend to blame myself for everything. It's kind of on my DNA. But I think in the corporate world, I think stakeholder management, I think, is the biggest challenge people have. Again, because we talk about different cultures, different way of things. And for you to be successful, you need to manage perception in the workplace, because perception and truth, two different things.
Two different things.
So I think sometimes people fall into a trap of having a perception about them because the way they behave, the way they work, because they haven't built strong relationships within the chain. And I think this is definitely something that I would ask somebody to work harder, because when you isolate yourself or you're not a good communicator, people very easily put you in a box and with a label, and that will eventually, create a problem for you in the pack.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, stakeholder management is definitely something. I think building relationships constantly with different people, different businesses, showing your value, showing, what you could bring to the table. Okay, I want to go back slightly, touching again on motherhood. Do you feel that being a mother has changed the way that you lead, or informs some sort of way in terms of how you lead in the workplace?
I think it's the responsibility of showing them work ethic. Very important. I was very blessed of watching my grandparents work. They work until late their lives. And their work ethic was something that I really respected, and I think was part of why very early I started to work as well. So for me, making them, and the other day, for example, I was at the supermarket. I made both of them bring like a drawing board, and I got them to write the price of all the items that we are buying, And I could see a parent stop me saying, "Oh, that's a really good idea," because we get carried away, right? We are in a little bit of a bubble here sometimes, and I feel that they don't value money. They don't understand, that things cost money. So I have a full reward system at home on points, and probably I'm a little bit too much. But for me, it's like they need to understand that nothing comes from free in life, and they need to work hard for it. So that responsibility is something that is a concern as they grow up. I want to make sure that they add to society rather than, I think mom is going to resolve everything.
I need information about this
reward system.
I'm going to go and buy them these boards so that we can do this next time we go shopping.
Now, even for holidays, there's a saving for the holidays. And if they want to, get special treats and things, they have to work hard to get the pocket money to spend on the holiday. I don't give anything for them, so they have to wash the dishes, make the bed, walk the dog. It's not perfect, there are days you forget and you don't follow through, but at least there is some level of understanding that if you don't behave, especially have two, and two means four because they fight all the time. So it's trying to find a balance with that. That's important to me.
Yeah, it's interesting because you mentioned being an example, leading by example, showing them how it's done. I wonder if you have anyone in your life that you have felt has been a really big example or has had a really big impact in your leadership journey. I always talk about leaders from the analogy of being a Sherpa. Yeah. You're being someone who is climbing the ladder yourself or climbing the mountain yourself, but also helping other people to climb at the same time.
Absolutely.
And we have probably all had someone in our life who has been a Sherpa for us. Who in your life has been a Sherpa for you or mentored you or given you opportunity?
I think everyone that came to my life in a positive, negative way teaches you something, right? Until today, all the people I'm associated with, and I think, again, that's what keeps my strength, is the people that you're associated with, because you learn from them. You're able to take a step back and sometimes understand you're not right all the time. So I think it's enabling you to be in a position, not on an org structure position, but in a position to be always surrounded by people that create value to you. And I had plenty of that through my life, and I'm very curious by nature. I want to be involved and understand why you're doing this way, why it's important, why do you think this way, why we think differently. So I think having curiosity also is very important. But I mean, a lot of people, I don't think I had one specifically.
Okay.
But I think it goes back to family, right? My family always, they start from nothing, mid class, they work every day, and that watching that as part of your day to day as the norm, it kind of imbues in your DNA as well.
Certain resilience as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. With that being said, you mentioned earlier that there are so many failures that you've had. You could talk for a long time about the failures you've had. I want you to tell us about a mistake that you've made that ended up being one of your biggest teachers. So any of the failures that I guess stand out to you the most.
I think the mistake we make all the time is thinking we're in control, right? So, having set up a real estate agency in 2004 and through the hype of the market, then there's the first wave of a crash, right?
Yes.
And then what do? The tap turns off of the hype, and then you realize that, now how are you going to survive, right? And then I think those processes that are, life slap you, it puts you in a position that you have to reshape the way you do things. So from having a beautiful tie to my door of the owner of the agency, now I'm the salesperson myself, because now I have to knock on doors and try to earn the bread for the end of the month. So you have to quickly shift. You have to leave the ego on the side and do whatever you need to do to keep your neck out of the water, right?
Yes.
And with crisis, it comes debt. With that comes payments you cannot maintain. So it's, quickly restructuring your life and be able to downgrade from the villa to the apartment and accepting that without any remorse. So those are the things that you learn through those moments.
Yeah.
But are many of them.
Okay, so looking forward then to the woman that you are continually evolving into. If I were to say, finish this sentence, so becoming her means?
Being kinder
to
yourself, less judgmental of other people's opinion, and really trying hard to build your self-awareness, understand who you are, what makes you happy. And makes you happy could be just going to the beach in the morning. If that's what makes you smile, introduce that to your life somehow. Find the little moments that gives you that part of joy. If you don't have it already, it's so important to give you a little bit of peace of mind, to have more clarity on your decisions, understand where you're going, if it's the right place or not. Making hard decisions as well, right? Because it's not just about the small things. It's sometimes you need to make a big shift, and you need to have that within you. Accountability, consistency, those are also two important words for me. I think consistency over talent. I think some people are shy to do things because, that person's much better, or they've been in the industry for so long. So what? There's many examples with footballers as well, the ones that train really hard and are successful, but they're not necessarily as talented as some of others. But you see the outcome when you look at the ones that are consistent, right? Yeah. So especially in this industry in real estate, consistency is so important, And I see that right now. I see a lot of big brokers who've been in the market for 20 years losing market share for the younger ones that are consistently posting on social media, because they are just not scared, where the other guy saying, I'm 20 years in the business, I know more. So many, many things. But I think, we just need to be a little bit more kinder to us. We put ourselves in... we should be we should be cheering for us, and we're not.
Something you said about consistency, it made me think about also something I saw on social media, which was more like a gym analogy, but it was saying that consistency never lies. So like someone could say, I'm in the gym every day, and then someone could actually be in the gym every day, but the consistency would show based on, how this person looks versus how this person looks. And I think that's true. And what you're saying with how, businesses are growing, and whether they stay consistent or they just relax and think, I've got the reputation, I don't really need to do anything else. And the younger ones come up and take and take what's there.
Big market share. I'm actually laughing because I can see how people on TikTok are making more money as brokers than the guys who call themselves the specialists. So,
Okay, so what does the next version of you look like from here?
Focusing a lot on longevity right now, getting fitter, stronger. It was never really a priority. I was snacking throughout the whole day, plus drinking the water on top of everything else. Education, as you know, I have a podcast I host with Dr. Mahmoud Al-Burai, the real estate majlis. So it's a podcast that, provide feedback to what's happening and hopefully, and education. I'm into education. I like yourself. I love to help brokers to understand the framework of a sale. I think people are still very much on the hype of the market.
Yes.
But there's so much they can do to get better and change their mindset that I know everything, because they all think they know everything. There's nothing else to learn. And learning never stops. It's forever.
Yeah.
And when you got to a point that you think you know all, that's downhill.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the hardest thing to embed into people's minds, being in this learning space and coaching, training space, is that there's always more to learn. And you find that when we talk about success, the people that are the most successful are the ones that have a growth mindset. They're very open-minded. They think, I know what I know, but there's more to know, Then you have other people who are like, I know what I know, and there's nothing else to know. This is all that it is. And that's a very fixed mindset. And I think that's a real struggle in this space, just getting people to be more open-minded and not see learning as a weakness. I think sometimes people think if I have to learn, then that means I'm not knowledgeable or I'm not good at my job. And actually it's like, no, people have gone before you. They know what they're doing. They've left clues. Success leaves clues. And you can read and you can learn what they do and imitate it and get the same success.
Feedback is so important, right? And people are so scared to ask people what went wrong, because sometimes we don't realize, right? Sometimes we are set in ourselves, in our own egos all the time, and you don't realize the things you're doing are not necessarily the right things. But you have to ask people. Even when you lose a sale, I don't understand why people turn off and never speak to the customer again because he bought from somebody else. That's the right opportunity to ask a question. What did I do wrong?
I love that, because I saw your video where you were talking about that, and you were, I think, training in a room full of people, and you were talking about just agents missing a trick because they're not asking, where did I go wrong here? What happened? You ended up buying with somebody else. And, because a lot of agents are like, we have a really close relationship. I can't believe they went to buy with somebody else. And, there's a breakdown in communication somewhere there, but they don't really ask that question.
Yeah, the decision people need to make is like, losing a sale, losing a client, right? They lose a sale, but they also lose a client because they don't have the right mindset. But you could keep the client. You just lost a sale. Yeah. But the client will come back or he'll refer you someone else. But they just,
close the door.
They close the door. They stay 1 week crying in depression.
Okay, so what conversation do you think more women should be having in leadership?
Supporting one another. Sometimes I feel the environment is not of support in a weird way. Would you think that women would look at you as an inspiration if they want to grow on the ladder? I think sometimes men actually tends to be a bit more supportive than women in certain situations. So I think that would definitely be something that we should be cheering for each other, not pushing each other's down.
Yeah. I think we don't like to talk about it. Women don't often talk about the fact that sometimes the support we need is from other women. Because although some women would think that men don't support us, sometimes men do. And sometimes it's women that don't. And, maybe there's a underlying feeling that there's only space for so many of us. So it's like survival. It's either you or it's me. It can't be both of us. But I'm hoping that we can get to that space as well. And conversations like these hopefully will help that. I want to know about the work that you're doing now. So tell us about the work you're doing now, the mission behind it, and who it's really for.
As I said, I think a lot of my focus is on education. I keep trying to immerse myself on, where the market's going, not just from real estate point of view, but what, how are we consuming things, how customers are looking at experiences, and I think we already move out of a service industry, right? And what I mean by that is today, we want all the services to be in Uber, right? You want everything that is at your fingertip, easy. So every business where there is friction to access, to get in touch, you're not going to be here, right? But a lot of people are still stuck on this is the way I do business, this is the way I want customers to contact me. And I think that they are not going to have a lot of longevity. And then on top of that, and the UAE is the best example in the world. How do you embed hospitality on everything you do? How you make people feel. It goes back to the beginning of the conversation. I think the arbitrage is how you build relationships and how you make people feel. Because if you make someone feel good about something you've done for them or you learn from you, they're going to hold you forever. They're going to be your champion. They're going to be the one talking about you to other people. And I think is understanding that's the fundamental part of what I try to do every day. Yeah,
I love that. Okay, so let's do some rapid fire questions before we close up.
I'm not very fast.
You have to finish the sentence, okay? So the first sentence is, I lead best when I stop trying to get people to do things my way. I like it. The boldest move I ever made as a leader was...
People say I'm not very apologetic. So I tend to have a mindset of doing and saying sorry rather than not doing it.
My kind of girl, yes. Power to me looks like...
Again, being happy. I think the word power is being in a level of control to the things you do makes you happy.
Very true. And success used to mean, but now it means.
Yeah, so success used to mean you have to achieve monetary things, you have to own, you have to have. I think today is about understanding that you are definitely in a better position than you ever thought you would be. And, how can you give back to society? How can you enroll yourself in service? I think this is the challenge, actually. But it's something that I look forward and I think about it a lot.
Yeah. I have really loved this conversation. If there are women that are listening that love what you've been saying and think, I need more of this woman in my life, where is the best place for them to find you?
Probably my Instagram account. So it's Cecilia, Cecilia DXB. This is my handle Instagram. That's where I tend to post my content and, talk a little bit about the aspects of sales techniques and, trying to help the industry to move forward positively.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I've loved this conversation and I've taken a lot away from it as well, just about boldness, about being unapologetic and also about happiness. And I'm really glad that we touched on that and the importance of us as women finding things that make us happy and pursuing that relentlessly.
Because it's almost like not allowed, is it, to be happy?
Not out loud.
Yep. Nope.
Not out loud.
No.
But thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.